Hi, Gary. And hi, everybody else. Hey, everybody. This is Nerdrotic's recap for Supergirl. First time on the CW, and fittingly, it's our first podcast. So I'm your host, John Reed, and this is Dennis.
Dennis
Dennis, how's it
Patholkis.
going?
I'm down in San Diego, and John's in LA, so I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. I never want to butcher your name in front of you, so I
That's
usually
fine.
just call you.
I've heard so many different names. That's it's ridiculous.
But yeah, no, I'm doing good actually. So I was just able to. The reason the Supergirl podcast is coming a day late is I wasn't available to podcast yesterday, and no one in our team of hosts really wants to watch this show
I do.
except for Dennis and I. Right, except for Dennis and I. And so I watched it today, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Right, like I didn't love last season, and
A lot of
I
people
liked
didn't.
aspects of it, but I didn't love it as a whole package, right? Like I got what they were going for, but I also thought it was a little bit like kitschy to say like, oh, only we're going to target women, and women only want to watch like romantic comedies or like Devil Wears Prada type content. So we're just going to make a superhero show that's basically just that. And I thought it was kind of lazy. I liked a lot of the casting, and I liked that they went all in with the costume and everything like that, but it just seemed a little bit lazy in the writing and in the conception. And I feel like this season, they're trying to fix some of those things, and they're succeeding more than they're failing. So,
Yeah, it felt like a pilot. It really
yes.
did. Kind of like rebooting in a ways, and that was actually good. I mean, they did a good job. And what I really liked is they tied. So this is a different universe, a different Earth than the Flash world, and Flash Arrow world, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
So the way they're going to do the crossovers is that he's actually going to run and cross over into her world every time
That's
they do the
awesome.
crossover. So, or
That's
she's going
really
to do
cool.
her super speed, I think, and fly in.
Yeah, which they kind of teased with the last crossover where he ended up in her world by doing similar things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess they'll be continuing that. So before we get started with this episode, I wanted to ask you a couple questions to kind of catch us up on what happened last season in case anybody didn't see it. And quite honestly, I may have dozed off here and there last season myself. So I'm going to start with some. Well, I think we should just start with just two of the main characters, but I'm going to start with one that's a little bit less main. Who is Win, and who's his dad?
So Win shot. His dad is Toy Man. So, and a very murderous toy man at that. And Win works at Catco, or did work at Catco in the first season. He was kind of like an IT guy, and he was trying to distance himself from his dad. He really didn't like what his dad had done, was very ashamed of him, and his dad, of course, tried dragging him into the family business, if you will. And of course, that didn't end too well for the elder shot.
And Win himself, he's had a little romantic like he's been friend zoned by Kara essentially at this
Oh yeah,
point, correct? Yeah. So and Kara friend zoned him in lieu of her relationship that was budding with James Olsen, who is
yep.
also in this show, right? So what's the backstory that this show is using for Jimmy James Olsen?
So the backstory for this one, believe it or not, we heard about it. We got to tie in the first episode here, the second season as well. They're using Superman the movie, Donner's movie, as the kind of background for this, which I was kind of surprised that they were
Yeah, that
doing
is
that,
surprising.
considering that they didn't have any hint of that in season one. But
So
it's
when they
still
talk
good.
about him locking up, when they talk about Superman locking up Lex Luthor, the specific locking up we're talking about is the Donner movie.
Yeah, they even said, I'm glad you stopped Lex from,
Yep.
even Win was talking about, he said, so when you were stopping the earthquake, did you use your x-ray vision in order to find the
Hmm.
faults? And, he was having a total fanboy moment, of course. But
Hmm.
yeah, that is because of the Donner movie, the 78 Donner movie. Yeah.
And okay, so yeah, Jimmy Olsen, he worked for, so he's basically the Jimmy Olsen from the movie. He
Yeah, he
worked.
worked for the Daily Planet. He quit. He was actually
Why did
Superman's
he
best
quit?
friend. Just because he was always getting in, putting his life in danger, that kind of thing, and kind of wanted to tone things down, and then also because Superman asked him. Superman and Jimmy Olsen are best friends, and he knows who Superman's real identity
Right.
is. And Clark asked him to go and look in on Kara, since Kara was moving to National City.
Right.
So that's pretty much what it was. It's more of a mentoring.
So they basically, Jimmy Olsen or James Olsen shows up in the first episode of the first season, and he's the new what I don't know. He's got some
The
elevated
designer.
role.
He was the designer, the magazine designer.
So we've got James Olsen, we've got Wynn, and we've got, and then on the other side of the things, that Kara's working at this government facility that deals with meta-human type things, right?
Yeah, we had a ship that crashed actually from the Phantom Zone on Earth. So they kind of blended a little bit of the movie, the Superman, Man of Steel, as well into this. So you have a prison ship that crashed from the Phantom Zone and has released a lot of metahumans, a lot of aliens.
So there's this government task force that's supposed to hunt them down or
and capture them. Yeah.
Regulate them. So leading this team is John Jones, Martian Manhunter, and that's pretty cool, right? Like I feel like they didn't do a ton with him. They did more than I thought actually on the CBS show. But the first scene of this new rebooted show on the CW, man, first scene, first episode, he's Martian Manhunter fighting crime right next to, or fighting threats right next to Kara, flying through in his suit and everything. Yeah, pretty cool that Martian Manhunter is such a big part of the show, no?
Yeah, it's really good. Very, very good. Sorry, you might hear some dog barking every now and then.
That'll probably happen on my side as well. So he's in charge of the team, and he seems to be really, really good friends with Kara's sister.
Adopted sister.
Right, adopted sister. So if for those who didn't see it, maybe when it was on the CBS show, who's this character and what's her deal?
So what we had was Clark ended up basically what was going on was Kara came from Krypton. She was supposed to take care of baby Kal-El. She was supposed to arrive with him and help him, grow up on Earth. Her ship got detoured when Krypton exploded, and she got shunted into the Phantom Zone along with the ship. We find out later on that her ship was actually what got the alien prison ship out of the Phantom Zone. They kind of latched onto it and warped out of there. Clark has already been on Earth. He's grown up by the time her ship lands, and she's still a teenager. So he places her with a foster family that's close to the Kents.
Yeah.
And
they had a little girl.
And they have a girl as well. And basically they become sisters. So they're about the same age. And they grow up together. And the parents are played by Helen Slater, who was Supergirl in the movies, and Dean Cain, who was Superman in Lois and Clark, which is a nice little nod there, to both of those series.
The super family of the
super family,
ages.
Exactly. And so it was kind of nice to have. Basically, she grew up through her teenage years into now she's 20-something. Moves to National City and starts working at Catco, which is owned by Cat Grant.
Right. So that was the last character I want to get into is Cat Grant. Calista Flockhart shows up as the boss of the kind of tabloid magazines, fashion magazine, right?
Yeah.
And she's kind of
she's
a
actually in the Superman. Yeah, she's in the Superman universe as well. She used to work at the Daily Planet, Cat Grant.
Right.
So she had broken off from the Daily Planet and created her own brand, if you will, and her own industry, and became this gigantic, what we see now in this TV show.
So getting in. Okay, so let's dive into this season. I feel like we've left Maxwell Lord in the past, and we're
good.
we're losing Max. We're getting Superman. Like that's kind of the balance that we exchange. I know it's not the same role or anything, but
actually we're getting Lena Luthor in place of Maxwell Lord. Yeah. And we're going to get a slew of Superman villains thanks to Superman being in this whole thing, which I think is going to help out a lot more.
Agreed. Is it? I know this is maybe sexist to say, but is it fair to say Supergirl works best when Superman is also involved?
No, no.
Okay, so disprove that for me.
Um, I think right now, what I liked about this was that the first episode here, Superman was kind of like, I'm going to stick around because you've got all these stories of Krypton. He goes, I know all this knowledge of Krypton, but I don't have firsthand accounts, and I like listening to them from you. It's hanging out with family,
Yeah,
that thing.
he wants to
And
like have some work-life balance himself, right? Like he
yeah,
wants to.
exactly. I mean, him and Lois are going out. Lois knows, of course, who he is, and they're boyfriend and girlfriend. They're not married, so. Uh, and I think it's just going to be a guest shot where he's going to be in a couple of episodes.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, no, I was just saying like I really liked this episode and the balance of having like a super, maybe it's not Superman himself, but having um
the Super
more than
Family.
just her. Yeah, yeah, exactly, like a super family. Like Martian Manhunter didn't seem like quite enough. Her sister is, very protective. There's all these cliches happening to all these characters, and I feel they bring Superman in, and Kara is able to kind of be her own distinct character instead of like a savior character for all these people.
Yeah,
And
and that's why it felt like a really good reboot, like another pilot, if you will. This second season, first episode, just because they did bring Superman in to kind of make those secondary characters. They minimize those secondary characters, so it
yes,
didn't bring her down.
so I totally agree. So this episode started, and it was really funny to me because it starts with this cool action scene with Martian Manhunter and Supergirl chasing this spacecraft and kind of guiding it down safely so it doesn't destroy anything. And it's a Kryptonian spacecraft, and they open it up, and there's a dude there, and at that moment I was like, holy shit, is this Flashpoint rewriting the Superman origin, and now like Superman hasn't been on Earth this whole time? And like my mind started going crazy that this is like Flashpoint screwing with everything on
No, I
this
know who it
show.
is.
Did you, well, first off, did you have that thought at all when you saw that happening, or did you know
No,
immediately it wasn't Superman?
I knew who it was. It's been spoiled so many times,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
all over the place.
I'm not in with the spoilers on Supergirl. So what's going on here?
It's Mon-El. He's
Who's
another one of the
Mon-El?
L family.
Okay.
Mon-El is a another cousin, if you will.
Black Sheep.
Not really. I mean, he does end up kind of becoming a villain, but it's more because he's sick than anything else, and kind of more of a tragic character in the
Okay.
comics. And
So
he
this
ends.
character might bring some depth to the show that maybe it needs.
I don't know how they're going to work it.
Depth
Tell you
of
the truth.
story.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know exactly where they're going to go with it. Tell you the truth. I mean, they can go in a couple different directions. There's different storylines out there from On-L. So there's one that's kind of tragic, where he's kind of put in a suspended animation in the Phantom Zone, so he doesn't die until they can
Okay.
find a cure for whatever disease that he has. There's one where he becomes a villain.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can go a
They're
couple different
probably going to
ways.
go villain path, knowing TV writers.
Possibly.
It'll get worse before it gets better, kind of a thing.
And it's
So,
family. So,
yeah, exactly. More super family. That's what we need. Um, Also, can I say we're about to talk about Kat Grant and her mentoring of Kara a little bit. I've effing love her office. Like if I could have a wall of TV screens that I can do different things on at the same time in my house, I would do that in a second. Like that's so I just love the set that they have for Kat Grant's office.
oh, yeah. No, it was awesome. And I don't know if you noticed, there's all kinds of little nods here and there to different things. One of the things that made me laugh out loud really hard was Miss Tessbucker, which
Yes.
is from the '78 Donner movie.
Hmm.
Uh, and they actually got someone who looked like Valerie Perrine, I believe is her name,
Yes.
to play Miss Tessmacher, who is now Cat Grant's assistant. And for those of you who don't know, Superman, the Donner movie, is my favorite movie
Oh,
of all
okay.
time. So I've watched the shit out of that movie. And Miss Tessmacher, of course, was Lex Luthor's assistant, if you will, in crime, along with Otis in that movie.
That's so awesome. Miss Tessmacher. So So, yeah, I love all the little hints that these guys like with the Flash and Arrow, and now with Supergirl. I just love how they play on the expectation, or they play with their fans, or the fans of the not their fans. They play with like the DC hardcore audience in a very interesting way that doesn't detract for the general audience, but adds so many little moments for the rest of us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's one thing that this show it did it a little bit when it was on CBS a little, but it seems to be going all out now that it's on the CW and has its
Yeah.
crew behind
One of the problems was with it being on CBS was not only did they have to pay, you know, to do the show, but they also had to pay the licensing for
it.
WB.
Right,
Whereas on CW, it's owned by WB. They don't need to pay the licensing, so they're just paying for the show.
right.
So they can actually, and you could see it. It actually looked a little bit more polished than it did on CBS. CBS was still
Interesting.
a little hokey, you know.
See, that's interesting because I felt actually a little bit differently. Like there were moments where I agree with you, but anytime they were flying, I feel like it looked better on CBS.
Yeah, well, the flying scenes are going to be. I mean, it's CW for you know, and honestly, I think the special effects on CW aren't the greatest in the world.
Yeah. They work good. It's Buffy quality effects, right? Like it works for the show, but you wouldn't want it in your big action movies,
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so Supergirl used to be filmed down here in LA at the Warner Brothers studio. We've done a tour and seen the lot and stuff a couple times, and they have like a specific room that's bigger than most sound stages that they do a lot of this flying stuff in, I believe. And so now that they're shooting it in, they still have use of the studio for some of the exterior shots that they would use in the CBS show to have continuity, but they're filming it up in Vancouver now.
Oh, okay.
And that's the reason that's the reason Calista Flockhart probably isn't going to be a big part of the season. Is she refused to move to Vancouver to film the show. So she's going to have a much smaller role this
Yeah.
season. Um, but I'm wondering if maybe some of these effects are going to be more polished because they've got a framework for doing Flash and Arrow, but some of them are going to be less polished because they had a very specific way of doing it down here in LA that they now have to recreate up there and maybe don't have the infrastructure for.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, it's different studio, different filming techniques, um, different effects houses too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all
There's
going to
not
be
really a
different.
lot of people flying around during the day in the other CW show. You got the Atom flying around at night,
Yeah.
but yeah, not a lot of characters flying around during the day in those shows. Um, so one of the storylines we have going on here is Kat pushing Kara to find her calling within Catco, which is kind of hypocritical in my opinion because you're basically saying like you have to dig deep to find your calling, but only within the context of this company, right? Like, um,
Well, that
and I
was
know that they were trying to
they kind
compare
of
it with like Supergirl, she was trying to say like Supergirl, she saves people because that's her calling. She has to save people, which was ironic because it is Supergirl that she's talking to. But then the show's also trying to distinguish between Kara and Supergirl in this. It's trying to basically say like it's two different people in one
well.
respect.
Do you think that Kat actually knows that Kara is Supergirl?
I don't. Do you?
She might. I mean, kind of the way she was playing with things, it almost sounds like she does know that Kara is Supergirl.
Yeah, I do think though that I thought that that's where they were going during the CBS run, but for a couple reasons, I think that it is. I think that she has like the way she was acting with um, Clark Kent, Superman, in this episode, where she's been fooled the whole time with Clark, makes me think that she just kind of has that same kind of attraction to Kara in the same way, like she's blinded in that way.
I don't know. I actually think because when she mentioned that whole threesome thing between Lois, Clark, and Superman, the way she said it was kind of like there really wasn't a threesome, but she just kind of threw it out there as in a
Yeah, I don't know. I
so
kind
I
of
think she knows Clark is Superman as well.
I think that it's funny. I think that maybe you and I are picking up on these jokes in very different ways. Like I feel like they're throwing them out there to say like this is the one area Kat's blind, like Cat Grant is blind to things. Like she's making these jokes that are wink wink to everyone who knows the real situation and she's clueless. Whereas like I think you're seeing them a lot more, correct me if I'm wrong, is like hints that she's trying to convince herself like she's got a theory and she's trying to play with that theory.
I think she's playing with that theory because remember, like she says, she knows well, we saw at the end of the episode that when she said she first hired Kara, she took her resume and wrote what she said she was going to be on it and stuck it in her drawer. And that
Yep.
she's a very good judge of character.
Yeah.
And I think someone with that, I guess, vision, if you will, of who people are going to be, already knows that these people
Yeah, but
are who they are.
I think that that's what they're playing on, right? Like I think they're playing on the fact that like Cat Grant is so good at this,
Oh, I see what
yet
you're talking about.
she's
Yeah.
got like a blind spot
Yeah.
for the supers, right? Like I think that's like I think that's where they're going with it. I think because I think they're going to have an episode one day where Cat does find out, and we're all going to be forced to like say, "Oh, I thought she'd figured it out before." Like we're going to have that moment that's very anticlimactic because it's going to be this big reveal that we're not going to care about because we all assume she figured it out anyway.
Or it could just be that she goes, "Oh yeah, well you're Supergirl anyway, so it doesn't make any difference."
Or that.
Yeah.
Or that. Um, so what do you think of how the show deals with the idea of the secret identity of like Kara is a different entity from Supergirl and Clark is a separate entity from Superman. Do you think the show is dealing with this well?
Yeah, actually, it's the whole. Honestly, the way they're dealing with it now is actually relatable to a lot of people today. It's work-life balance, and
Right.
that's the way they're dealing with it on this show. And I think it's actually smart that they're dealing with it this way versus, oh, I'm somebody else entirely. And why does someone love me as this person but not as that person? And,
Right.
and they're not going that route, which was done to death in Lois and Clark, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're going the work-life balance versus, dual identities.
Yeah. I think the show has to do it this way. I mean, I think that they maybe deal with it a little bit in a clunky way. Like they definitely a lot of people reference Supergirl to Kara in a single episode, right? Like a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
people are like, "Why can't you be more like Supergirl?" Or like, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of referencing of Supergirl to Kara every day, it seems, of her life. But yet
you got to
nobody puts it
remember.
together.
You also got to remember it's CW, so Dawson's Creek. There's a lot of Dawson's Creek in CW.
Hmm.
Still,
Yeah. No, I mean, look, my shows are CW type shows, right? Like I love Gossip Girl, the OC, One Tree Hill. Like these are my favorite TV shows. And so when you get superhero teen dramedies, like that's, I'm definitely going to gravitate toward that. But I do think that this show's just a little bit heavy-handed
Oh yeah, it's not
with
just a little bit heavy-handed; it's a lot heavy-handed.
right. Like I'm okay with a little bit heavy-handed. I think this goes. It's again, it's a little lazy. It's getting lazy, less lazy this season to me, but it's still just a little lazy to kind of say, okay, we're retreading like this format every episode, but it's with superheroes and it's with the super family, so it'll be more
It's
interesting. And it's just like, well,
I don't
no,
know.
it still has to be more interesting.
It's I think it just needs to find its feet first. And honestly, I'm looking at this as season one.
Yeah, me too.
Especially after the way they started this episode, I was like, all right, we're back at
Yeah.
season one.
Yeah, you got Win, who they don't even reference that he ever worked for Cat Grant before. You've got Superman showing up like he's been on the show the whole, referenced and been on the show the whole time. You've got
Yeah.
they're basically ended she basically we've reset the Jimmy her relationship back to square one by the end of the episode, which I think was a good idea. We've established her new position
a new big
within
character too.
yeah.
Lena
Yep.
Luthor, who is going to be
Yes.
the focus of Capital National City. Excuse me.
And
National
Cadmus, right? We're going with
Yeah.
Cadmus instead of the Phantom Zone. Like, I fucking hated the Phantom Zone stuff and how long it lasted. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool. Like, I like the Phantom Zone, but not for an entire season. And and as part of the structure of the show, like you said, like the Phantom Zone was baked into the show last season,
Yeah.
and they stripped that away and said like, yeah, we're gonna have Cadmus. It's not baked into the entity. Like the Cadmus could go away and the show could still exist. And I love that. Like I love that teaser at the end with Metallo
Oh
was
yeah.
like, oh man, they're really going all out with this. Like this is
When
great.
when they said the name John Corbin, when he said Corbin here, and I was like, oh crap, it's Metallo, you know.
Uh-huh. Yep.
As soon as they
Um,
did that, I was in. Yeah.
So what did you think of? So we'll get back to Lena. I'm not. I know I keep going on a tangent when you bring up Lena Luthor. It's not on purpose. Like it is on purpose, but it's not to say we're not going to talk about it. But I want to get there in a minute. Superman, the guy who plays Superman. What do you think of this?
I don't know. There's parts of me that I'm like, he doesn't look the part, and when he starts playing Clark, like in the elevator, he knocks over somebody's files, and
Yes,
which I was like, okay, you actually did a good job on that one. That's not bad, and
he's
especially
more
when
Dean Cain than Henry Cavill, right? Like he's
oh yeah,
more. Uh,
I would even go so
he's
far
got
as to
he's got the
say
smile,
he's
but he
more
can't talk.
Superboy than Superman.
Yes, I like that. That's a really good. That's a perfect way to put it. He does. He seems very immature, even though he's supposed to be a matured Superman at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
I would say he's almost like Christopher Gerard, who played Superboy way back in the '90s. Yeah, and kind of like that in a way, only not as confident as that guy. That guy actually kind of was very confident when he played
yes.
Superboy, and he just needs a little more confidence. I think he did a good job. I mean, there's some stuff in there. Like I said, the bumbling part was actually pretty funny when he even explains. Kara goes, "Oh, you got that, the bumbling thing down pretty pat." And he goes, "No, that was actually an accident."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, for sure. He had some great moments in this episode. He was just a little too like smirky for me. Like he always had this like
you mean the
you
wink,
know
like when he
yeah
saves the
like
family
winky.
from the bullets?
Yeah, and like every time
Over the
she
shoulder
asks
wink.
him a question, he makes like a little smug joke, and then it's just like, no, I'm like he was just a little too like
Familiar?
smiley. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
he seemed like a Bachelor contestant to me, like a specific one. He seemed like Jared from The Bachelor to me. Um, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes with him. I'm optimistic because of the little good moments. I'm not kind of holding the bad moments against him yet, but that he needs to stop like uh, humbly smiling all the time.
Exactly. Sorry, we have a little guest here.
Hey, Pepper. It's Pepper, right?
The Pepper, yeah.
Hi.
Can't hear you because I've got an headphone in, so. But
So
she decided to
cute.
pop up here.
You've got the sweetest dog. My dog would just be going crazy and barking at everybody. Um,
So yeah,
how
no, he
did she
didn't
like the
really.
episode? Is she going to be happy
No,
when
she wasn't.
Crypto comes on the show?
She wasn't anywhere near. She was inside the room here sleeping, and I was
Nice.
outside in the living room watching it on TV. And actually, yeah, that smirking aside, the one thing I did like is when when they both stopped the plane, they saved the plane,
Yes.
and there's people on bikes on the road, and she goes, "Well, I usually come up and say hi," and he goes, "Yeah, I do too." And then she comes up and says, "Oh yeah, I used to change his diapers, by the way." So
Yeah.
she tells those people, just kind of knock him down a little bit, down to human
Yes.
level.
And right, I loved that moment, and his reaction to that was that smiley, humble, smiley thing, and that worked. Like I feel like that's the scene they tested him for,
Yeah,
like the scene he read for when he went in, because he like it worked so well. And then there were just times when that kind of attitude didn't seem to fit, and I think that I hope that he's going to grow into the role because he does. They play off well together, and I think that
yeah.
that's what's most important.
Well, they're the same age too, so they should
No,
kind of both, yeah, grow into the role together. That's what the joke was with Win saying, "I know that
you're 12 years older.
yeah, you're 12 years older than Kara, but you kind of look the same age," and that was the whole joke was
Gotcha.
They are actually the
Wow,
same
that was
age.
really inside baseball, that joke.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was bad.
So, okay, so yeah, let's get into the Lena Luthor stuff. So the big storyline this episode was there was a Venture space shuttle launch, which is basically like a private space shuttle launch for like rich people, and it was gonna, I think, just go around the planet and land again, right? So it was like
No,
the
it's supposed to be
first.
an orbital, low orbit plane, if you will. So
Right, right.
essentially going from like New York to Japan in like 2 hours, kind of
But you
thing.
go into space and go around,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and so it was the launch of this space plane, and and it's something goes wrong with it, and Superman and Supergirl bring it down safely. That's what brings Superman to National City. Um, and we find out that Lena Luthor, Lex Luthor's sister, or adopted
Adopted
sister,
sister. Yeah.
was supposed to be on the plane. So it seems like maybe with Lex in jail, which we learn through Superman, she's taken over the company, and maybe like she's following in the footsteps of her brother, and she somehow perpetrated this for some reason, right? So they start investigating Lena. We meet her, and what it turns out to be in the end is somebody was actually Lex hired Metallo before he was Metallo to target and take out Lena for some reason. So that's what it
It's
seems like
because
is going on.
she's rebranding Luthor Corp
Right.
into
L
L
Corp.
Corp. Yeah,
Right.
and that's the reason why is that
He's
uh,
losing his good legacy. He
e-
feels so he wants to take it out.
exactly.
Um,
Supposedly, we that's the cover story. We don't know if that's actually a true story or not.
it's all alleged.
It's all alleged.
Right.
Yes. So,
So go. You wanted to talk about Lena since we started. Let's go.
oh man, I got nothing to say now. No, I'm kidding. Um, I think she's actually going to be a good character. She's going to replace Kat as the mentor, if you will. That's going to make Kara grow a bit more as a person. And, we're going to see a little bit more about what happens in the Luthor family, I think. And I think we're going to have a tie over between. I think there's going to be a tie over at some point between Cadmus and Luthor Corp. That, there's got to be at some point.
Okay. So give me a couple minutes about Lena. Is she a character from the comics world? And if so,
In
how big?
this, I think she's a newer character that I
Okay.
don't know about, to tell you the truth. Um, so honestly, I don't know. I There's so many different universes out there from DC. They keep rebooting like every couple of months now, it seems.
So we'll do
That
this. We'll research some Lena stuff for our next show. If we have some sort of a comic book history, we'll throw it in there. Yeah. So basically, you're coming in fresh, just like me and everybody else. Like
yeah, pretty much.
I loved the actor. Like I feel like um, she seems like to me, Win is the best, is my favorite. It's the character I gravitate most in the show, right? And I think it's because it's a blend of like he's a competent actor in a fun role. And Lena seems like she's gonna be bringing that to the table for me as well. Like she seems like she's an established actress coming in and filling a very interesting role on a show that's very cookie cutter.
Yeah, I really kind of like Melissa Benoit, who's playing Supergirl. The way she's doing is actually fairly genuine.
Yes.
Especially the Flash episode, for example, and everyone uses it as a GIF now. When he runs out and comes back with ice cream at super speed,
Yes.
and her reaction, it's like, that's actually her real reaction to
Uh
ice
huh.
cream, because she loves ice cream, I guess, on the show. And they said
Hmm.
so whenever she was getting ice cream, I guess she ate like about 4 or 5 cones during that take.
I wish I had that job.
Yeah. So that was her real like happy face kind of
Sure.
reaction. And that's kind of nice to see in an actor, you know? Um,
Yes.
so I'm kind of gravitating more towards her. Just
Interesting. Yeah, because for me, Lena is like she has some mystery about her. She
oh yeah,
commands a certain presence, right? And she's the antithesis of most of the characters on the show. She doesn't seem very bubblegummy, right? She seems very
Oh yeah, they're
like
they're trying to break
like
out of that
Wells
mold.
when he came Earth 2 Wells when he came on to Flash kind of brought that energy with him, that kind of like um, American
Gravitas, if
prestige.
you will.
Yeah, yeah, but also kind of like he's out of another time and place. Like he's very um, uh, he's of a different tone than the show itself. And I feel
Okay.
like the woman playing Lena is similar to that, right? She seems like she's of a different show, and yet she's coming here and she's going to play what seems like a relatively significant role in all of this.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah, there's been I know what you're talking about, like actors that have seemed like they were acting in different movies altogether or different shows altogether. Than
Right.
yeah,
Than the one you're watching, yeah, and I think that that's a good thing though, because it seems like the Superman they brought in seems to be the same. Like he's very genuine, he's very bubblegum. It's all very, very. Um,
poppy.
I would say CW before they rebooted CW. It's very that like Smallville-y. and um,
Nah,
and she.
he doesn't
You don't think
brood.
so?
He doesn't brood like Tom
No,
Welling
no, no, he's
does.
not Tom Welling Smallville. I
Ugh.
mean, like the tone of Smallville, like he fits that essence, right?
Yeah, no. Honestly, it's more. If I had to go with a tone for Supergirl, it's more Flash first season, the very kind of bubbly, kind of
Yeah,
poppy.
like the first half of the first season.
Yeah, where it was just fun,
Right.
and it's not the dire darkness that Smallville was when it
Right.
started, or Dawson's Creek. It's not the heavy drama of Dawson's Creek or Arrow or
Right.
things like that,
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly. It's the
it's
sunny
more fun.
side.
Yeah, it's a sunny side of DC, which we've
Right.
been missing for so goddamn long
I
now.
agree.
And this is what, going to the movies. I mean, the DCU movies. That's what they're missing. Frankly, this is exactly what they're missing. They don't need to add a lot of it, just a little bit,
If they
like
injected Grant
20%.
Gustin in as the Flash to the DC
Yeah.
universe, it would be immensely helpful, I feel, to them.
Oh God, it would change everything. Uh, and yeah, and that horrible suit that they have that they're using for the movie, it's just garbage. And Zack Snyder again is directing Justice League the movie, so we're just gonna get more of the same of Dawn of Love. I
Yeah.
mean, Dawn of Justice or whatever that horrible Batman versus Superman movie was.
It's just all. What's interesting? I didn't see it in the theater. I ended up seeing only the director's cut, and I was like, I don't know what everyone's talking about. I actually kind of liked the movie, and then I heard later, like, oh no, the director's cut is so much better. But it was really dark. But everyone came out of that movie just being like, oh, it was terrible. And I almost wish I had seen the comparable, like the original cut, to be like,
They have it on that disc.
yeah, they'll never air it again.
No, I'm telling you,
um,
go and watch the theatrical. It's released on DVD.
Yeah, no, I'll check it out eventually. I just like, why waste the time seeing the bad one?
I
So
know, but it's honestly, it's not just that too. It's also Man of Steel. Man of Steel was so dark and dull
yes,
that,
I hated Man of Steel. I couldn't even get through it the first couple times.
and Gary and I have said time and time again, Kevin Costner's Pa Kent basically suggesting that he should Superman should let children die so he doesn't release his secret. We're like, that is not Pa Kent.
No,
That is
no,
not Pa Kent at all.
it didn't make any sense.
No.
Anyway,
And yeah,
let's
anyway, yeah.
not.
Sorry, I go
We
off on
go
a
down
tangent
that
there.
rabbit hill.
Yeah.
So let's see. Whose team are you on? Are you Team Superman or Team Martian Manhunter? Should the kryptonite that was found in Project Emerald or whatever it was called in that file that caused a rift between Superman and Martian Manhunter, do you think all the kryptonite that they found should have been destroyed or kept just in case a super being comes that they need it to actually take on?
You have to keep it. I mean, and honestly, I think I know where it's going to go with. We don't have Star
We're going to
Labs.
need it for Metallo, right?
Well, Metallo's
No,
new.
because he's going to be all kryptonite. So
Yeah,
they'll need it.
I think what's
Yeah.
going
What
to
do they
end
need
up
it for?
what ends up happening is you're going to have a. I know what the resolution is going to be, and I already thought about it in my head when I saw this episode. And what they're going to do is they're going to create Star Labs at some point during the season, and you're going to have Doctor God, I can't remember his name now. The guy who runs Star Labs, Doctor Emil.
Wells. Oh,
No, no. In the Superman universe, it's Doctor Emil, and I can't
okay.
remember his name, and I'm
Oh,
blanking on it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um, so you're going to have that introduction of that character taking over Star Labs, which is actually being run by Cadmus.
Interesting. Okay.
So you have that whole Cadmus Starlight. So you have the good and the bad labs, if you will,
Hmm.
and you have them in charge of the kryptonite. So it doesn't. That way you can have his relationship
So
with
you're basically
Martian.
making a UN for kryptonite, so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
okay, a kryptonite peacekeeping force, if you. So, but that said, what if they just destroyed this, right? They wouldn't have it in case they needed it, but it pisses Superman off. So you're almost like creating an enemy that you need to use it on. You know what I mean? Do you get where I'm going with that?
I get
Like,
it. Yeah, but at the same time, if you've got people that, and I use the analogy from Superman the animated series when he's fighting Darkseid at one point, and he says, "I want to thank you." He goes, "My entire world is made of cardboard." He goes, "I can't." He goes, "I have to be careful every single day in case I lose control." If you got somebody that powerful that slips even once,
yeah. No, I
and
agree. I think I'm Team Martian Manhunter as well. I think that you just need that failsafe there, and Superman should understand that. Um, do, but it doesn't seem like it's fear. Like I don't think he's scared that somebody's going to use it on him. I just think that he views it as like them not trusting him,
yeah, he
and
views them
and
as not trusting him, but at the same time, he's got to realize there's a lot of Kryptonians that are starting to pop up. We got Mon-El that just showed up, you know. We
Kara, who
had
knows? She could be a complete bitch.
yeah, and then you also had the entire ship that had some Kryptonians on it. Remember, there was 9 Kryptonians in the first season, so
Yeah, no, I totally, I'm with you. I think Martian Manhunter made the right decision. Hopefully, Superman comes around. Um, So yeah, I mean, this episode was really good. I don't know if it wasn't great. It wasn't, it wasn't the best, show I've seen this season even,
no,
but it was a vast improvement on last season, and I hope that and that quality continues. I don't know if you're.
it was
It seems
fun.
like we're on the same page there. Yeah.
It was honestly just a fun watch. I mean, I had a smile from ear to ear, honestly, from just all the different references of the Donner movie and even the little thing like when he blocks the family Superman from being shot. It was a
Hmm.
classic Superman pose.
Yes.
Him blocking people, and then you
Them
have the
bringing down a plane is
yeah,
classic
hmm
in itself.
and then having the family say, we're moving back to Gotham, which I
Yeah,
thought was a
that was
nice
fun.
little.
No, don't go. Um, so when do you think the first? You may be even spoiled on this, but how soon do you think we get a crossover now that this is a CW show?
It'll be during sweeps. I
Okay, so we've got a couple. Wait,
think it's like
May.
5th or 6th episode, something
Oh,
like that.
November sweeps. Right. So we've
Yeah.
got November and May. So you think that we're only going to get crossovers in those months, or
Well, yeah. One of them I know is going to be an all musical episode.
that's why they keep casting musical stars apparently.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's with Music Meister and Neil Patrick Harris and Joss Whedon directs it.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be so awesome. Yeah, I mean, because yeah, Melissa Benoist is from Glee, right? She's
So is Grant Gustin.
and
Yep.
so is Grant Gustin. So there you go. You got 2
Yeah.
Glee alumni, and I think the guy who plays Win was
Yep.
also a classically trained singer.
Yeah, and I think the guy who plays Jimmy Olsen is when they were cast. I remember when they were casting Supergirl, people were commenting on the fact that they kept picking people who were musical in training. Um, And like, is this whole show going to be a musical? I don't remember if it was actually Supergirl or The Flash, one of them. But it seems as if the CW has been casting a lot of musical theater type people recently, and I can't wait till they start using that a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be one episode. They already said it's an entire musical episode between the Flash. It's the crossover episode, by the way, with Flash and Supergirl. So,
It's gonna be so good.
oh yeah,
Arrow better show up and sing a song, frankly.
yeah, about brooding, darkness.
He's the Spike of the group. Um,
Well,
okay, so
you've seen the Lego movie, right?
yeah, I have.
You know, Batman with darkness, no parents.
Yep.
That, by the way, is my really bad Lego Batman impersonation.
I can't believe they're doing so. Just on a tangent here, the fact that like Lego movies are a thing, like
Oh
as
yeah,
good as the Lego movie was, right? Like I love it. But now that they're just adapting things to make Lego movies of an already made movie
oh yeah.
is crazy to me. Like it's all just crazy to me. Like Lego Batman the movie is crazy.
Well, they're actually taking
But
the character from the Lego movie and making
right, yeah.
that movie.
No,
Yeah.
I got you. It's just nuts to me that like that's become a thing. Like let's kind of remake a movie with a character that's already had a movie, but in Lego form.
You got to remember, we had Angry Birds, the movie.
That is true. That touche.
We had Pixels, which was essentially Tetris.
I wish that had been a good movie. I love Ashley Benson, who she's like my hero. So, but I wish that movie had been good. The
I knew
idea
it
of
wasn't
like
going to be good. Once they said Adam Sandler was in it, that
yeah.
was right there.
There's a book
Speaking
called Armada that's kind of similar in. Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of actors who were acting in a different movie entirely, what's his name from Game of Thrones? Who plays
Sean Bean.
no, the small
Oh,
man.
Tyrion. Dink,
Yes, Dinklage. Thank you,
yeah,
Peter Dinklage.
I was like the Dink.
Yes, he was in that movie in Pixels, and was acting on an entirely different movie than
Yes.
everyone else was.
Yeah, yeah. That was kind of funny. Okay, so I don't know if is there anything else you wanted to throw out there before we sign off for this week on Supergirl?
Do you want some spoilers?
Yeah, okay, let's spoiler alert. Yeah, there's gonna be a spoiler alert right now because we've got some spoilers.
It's up
What's
on our
up, Dennis?
webpage right now. It's just been announced that Jimmy Olsen himself on the show is going to become the Guardian, which, if you know from DC Comics lore, the Guardian's been through a couple different incarnations. First, he was a cop in Metropolis that just got tired of all the criminals and all that stuff and suited up and went out and fought crime.
Okay.
And later on, he became pretty much a lackey for Cadmus. Cadmus had kind of created him, if you will, to look over their creations, their alien human blends and all that kind of stuff. So he was telepathically controlled. And this one, I guess, Jimmy Olsen's going to have superpowers.
Interesting.
CW, yeah, this Jimmy Olsen.
How does he? Do we know how he's going to get the superpowers?
I don't. Probably through Cadmus is what I'm guessing.
So he's going to be an experiment of Cadmus at some. So they're going completely away from the like good old boy love interest, and they're going straight to like damaged vigilante hero with him.
Well, supposedly he's going to keep his alter ego a secret from Supergirl.
Right. Again. Yeah. Interesting. That's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. How do you feel? What do you think about that?
I don't like it. I mean, as I said, CCW. This is why we can't have good things. We can't have nice things.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you put crap like this out every now and then, these little twists, and you don't need them. You really don't.
Yeah, just bring Guardian in as another character if you really want that.
Or really, since they have essentially, they've already said that this is a separate universe from the movies, bring in Apocalypse, man. The planet with Doomsday, Darkseid.
Apocalypse. Yeah.
And bring in the Furies.
Sure.
Granny Goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Miracle.
Mm-hmm.
All that kind of stuff, and just have at it. bring in the new gods as well, if you will.
Maybe they will. Maybe they will. Maybe this is just maybe this Jimmy thing is just because the character wasn't working, which I don't think the character was really working last season, and they're taking a different. They like the actor and they want to take a different angle with that. I don't love what it says for the storyline going forward, but I do like the fact that they've recognized that Jimmy is really uninteresting and they need to do something, right?
Well, I think he worked in the first season as to kind of guide Kara along into becoming Supergirl. And then after that, it should have been like what should have happened was when Lucy Lane came to National City, he should have said, "You know what? I'm gonna go leave with her, and I'm going back to Metropolis."
Yeah,
And he goes, "I
but
think I've
then
done
we would
enough
have
here."
seen Kat. I mean, we would have seen Kara lose. Like, I feel like that would be something that the general audience wouldn't love. Is like this guy that they've built up for Kara just choosing to stay with his ex and leave her.
Yeah,
Like,
but what did they do? I mean, at the beginning of the season, they rebooted the entire thing.
yeah.
So
But they didn't know that they were going to be doing that, right? Like they didn't know what they had on their hands at that. So I get where you're going. It just doesn't seem like feasible that they would have to have seen the future to be able to plan that exit for him.
I guess, yeah.
And they must really like this actor because they're giving him all the
I love
they're
the
giving him a
actor.
very big yeah.
I mean, he's a great actor. I've seen him before in Necessary Roughness, or what was it? It was the one with the psychiatrist on USA who
Yeah, necessary roughness. Unnecessary roughness. Necessary. No,
Necessary Roughness. Yeah.
one of those. Yeah, I
I
know
think
what
it
you're
was
talking
Necessary
about. I haven't
Roughness.
seen that.
And he was a basketball player or football player,
Okay.
excuse me, who just was a dick for the most part. And he was her first client.
So Cyborg. He should be playing
Kind of.
Cyborg.
He should be playing Cyborg, really. He would actually make a great Cyborg, other than the guy that they have. Then again, the costume that they have for the Cyborg for this movie is just.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah,
Well,
it's bad.
hopefully, I don't know. But yeah, no, Jimmy. I mean, I feel like this actor. Here's the thing: this can really work. I feel like this Guardian spoiler, like it could work if they go far enough first to erase everything that happened, like in our mind, everything that's happened so far. If they're able to like successfully reboot the character and then put him through this, it could work, right? Like we don't know what the context is going to be. So I
Yeah,
think
we don't
there's
know what
still
the
hope there
context is.
that he can pull this sort of thing off. I just feel like with where they've come with the character, they seem to be taking a character that already needs a little bit of rehab and putting him through the process that a normal TV show would do with the character that we love. Like you
Yeah.
take the character you love and you kind of break them down and rebuild them. And right now you're taking a character that we don't really like and break him further down. So it just seems like
So
it's tough.
what you're saying is we take the good, we take the bad, we take them both. There you have the facts
The
of
facts
life.
of life. The facts of life. Life, guys. Um,
Thank you very
anything else?
much. Good night.
Anything else? Anything else before we go?
No. I think I've made enough bad puns tonight
Yes.
to last a while.
So a little bit of housekeeping. We'll be podcasting about Gary and I will be podcasting about the Flash tonight. And we should have a podcast about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. up later this week, early next week, before the next episode airs. The Flash podcast will be live on YouTube tonight. That is Tuesday night after the episode at 9:15. If you're listening to this, it should be available the next day on iTunes and on
That's
YouTube.
9:15 Pacific time.
9:15 Pacific
Just in
time.
case.
So late as fuck for everybody else. And you can follow me at JohnReed16 on Twitter. Dennis, are you on Twitter?
Yes, I am. I'm on Twitter at DeForce, DAFORCE.
DaForce. So follow us on Twitter. You can also follow at Nerdrotics on Twitter. And yeah, it was great to do this tonight, Dennis. I like this talking about Supergirl thing. It makes me enjoy the show a little bit more. I hope everyone else there feels similarly.
Yeah, I'm hoping actually we get some more people to watch it too. I mean, it's a good show. if you like the Flash, you're gonna love Supergirl. It's in the same kind of vein. I'm talking about the
If you like the
happy-go-lucky.
Flash, you'll probably like Supergirl as well, as I think we're all go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got the same kind of vibe that I got from watching the first season of
Agreed.
Flash.
Agreed.
And it's a good reboot, you know.
I think this is a very successful reboot. I hope that they continue on this path for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They have to prove it to me
Uh,
first season before I'll go with a strong statement like if you like the Flash, you'll love Supergirl. But I see where you're going with that.
I'm a big fan of. I was already a big fan of this show as it was. I mean, even with all its warts and whatnot on there, it was still fun, you know.
Yeah.
And that's honestly what I'm looking for in my superhero stuff
Look,
right now.
I totally agree. My issue with it last year was it was fun, but it didn't have enough superhero ness. So there are other fun shows out there maybe I would have rather liked or liked to watch. And now I feel like it's uh,
Jam packed full of superhero-ness.
exactly and being absorbed into a larger superhero universe. It all helps, right? It all helps. So join us next week. We'll be live on Monday after the episode next week. Um, and in the week to come, we've got more Ash versus Evil Dead. Gary and
Yep.
Dennis are talking about that every week on Sundays. When Walking
So
Dead
sack up,
starts up.
sunshine.
Yep. When Walking Dead when Walking Dead comes back, we'll be covering Walking Dead live on Sundays. And I'm not sure Ash versus Evil Dead will either be Sunday or Monday.
Well, we
And
have we have the app, so it actually comes on at midnight.
oh yes, it'll be earlier.
Oh yeah, so we can actually go earlier on Ash versus Evil Dead. So we
Great.
can actually go before the Stars feed on TV.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll get early Ash versus Evil Dead coverage at that point on Sundays. Walking Dead will be our kind of flagship show on Sunday evenings, and then Monday we'll have Supergirl. Tuesday we'll have the Flash and Agents of Shield. Wednesday we'll have Arrow, and Thursday we'll have Legends of Tomorrow. So
Wow,
that's
that's
kind
a
of what
lot.
we're looking. I know iZombie is going to be in there. There's going to be some Westworld coverage, and
Oh
we're going
yeah.
to start up our Nerdrotic roundtable as soon as we can get Melissa to take a couple hours and at a time in which I'm also available. So we've got a lot of stuff in the pipes, people. Just subscribe to us on iTunes and like us on Facebook, and we'll have all those events out to you and post to let you know what we have going on and when.
Yeah, and we also have more on our Facebook page, I should say, other than just our podcasts. I post a lot of material, a lot of spoiler material too. So, like that James Olsen tidbit about him being Guardian.
Yeah, Dennis is running our Suture Watchtower feed where he's going to be posting news in the Nerdrotic pages, and hopefully we can get the Suture Watchtower up and running as well.
Yep. I post also trailers. We've got the new, the leaked trailer, I should say, to The Dark Tower, the Stephen King movie.
Yep.
That actually came out and it's still up, surprisingly, even though it's
Awesome.
not finished. It's an
They
unfinished
haven't crushed it
trailer.
yet? That's great.
It's pretty funny. It's got green screens in there and everything, and
That's so cool.
yeah, it's pretty nice. But yeah, if you guys want to see anything, let us know on our page. Let us know on Facebook. Let us know on Twitter.
Yep.
There's lots of different ways of getting a hold of us and asking us, what you're interested in.
Yep. And
And
if you have any questions for Supergirl next week or any podcasts that we have coming up, just post them on the Facebook page and we'll address them. So yeah, we want to make this as interactive as possible.
and I think even we've been talking about we might have prizes coming up as well for
Yep.
viewers.
I think during the Nerdrotic TV Roundtable, we're going to try to, stay tuned. Tune
Yeah.
into the Nerdrotic TV Roundtable and you get more details on maybe how you can get some really cool free stuff.
Cool.
Anything else, Dennis, before we sign off?
That's pretty much all I've got. I think
Awesome.
we've done a lot there. Yeah, you come up with a sign off phrase yet, or sign off catchphrase?
No. Awesome.
Or,
Awesome. Bye.
I will say, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, America.